Friends, family, and keepers of the faith, welcome to another Del Boy blog. And we've reached another plateau. So let's see. It's date stamp. It's year 3, blog 5. In legacy numbers, that's blog 109, and it's dated 24th of March 2024. And next week is Easter, and then April. My God, we're moving so quickly. But there's some differences that I feel about today. I don't know what it is. I was in two minds yesterday, last night. I finished the blog notes as best as I could, and there was nothing on telly that I really wanted to watch. I wasn't really that interested in an England friendly, for which I hear that they lost. But I watched that a little bit with my mother. She wanted to keep channel hopping because she thought that if she was watching it, they'd lose. So I had the unenviable task of sitting with my mother, watching the football, and then her changing the channel, and then changing it back, and having general chats. And that sort of thing went on for about an hour or so before I got really fed up and said, look, I've got to get back into my room and think about finishing things off for the night because of the blog, which she understood. A bit of a scare in the evening in the fact that she said she suddenly felt like she had toothache and wanted one of my tablets, for which, I've got no problem with because she takes a form of my tablet that I take for painkillers, but a lower version. So she takes cocodamol 15 500s, which is 15 milligrams of codeine and 500 paracetamol, and I take 30 500s. So I don't mind giving her the one, if it'll help her sleep. So we did that and went to bed fairly early. And woke up feeling a bit different. I don't know what it is. I'm looking out the window now and the sun is out. There's blue skies, but there's quite a few clouds. I can hear people mowing their lawn, which makes me think about mine. Although I've got to drain the oil and put some engine oil in the petrol mower, and I've never done that before. So I'll probably be doing that this afternoon. It's made me think about the garden centre and taking my mum to the garden centre. And it's made me think forward to next week where I've not exploited the bank holidays like I've done previously. What I mean by that is whenever there was a week like Easter, where you get Friday and Monday off, I usually book the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off to make it a nice long week. And I've just booked the Thursday, which means I get Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then back and Monday back to work Tuesday, which is still quite a nice chunk of time. And it makes me think, what am I going to do in that time? And I've written some things down that I must do. Stuff for my mum, stuff for my friends that I've been promising to do, because I've got a number of duplicate films that I've been meaning to get out to people that I don't need in my collection anymore. And I've been meaning to start cataloguing my film collection again. And I need to make some space on my machine. I need to clean it out. So I need to get my electronic air buster, because I don't use air cans anymore. I use an electronic blower, and just generally scrap, some of the old laptops. Take the hard drives out, put them in enclosures. Start labeling up some of the enclosures that I've got, telling me what's on them instead of me having to keep putting them in. That sort of thing. And I'd really, really, really like to get my account sorted out with a certain torrent site, because I don't use torrents very much, but there's one that I've really been thankful for to be able to access. But at the time, earlier this month, I got hacked. It was a continuation of the hack. In other words, it's when I forgot to change the password on. And it got hacked on January, so it wasn't re-hacked, it was a continuation, and I still can't get in. So I'm looking forward to that being resolved, and maybe I can get, when I get some of these negatives out the way, I'll start feeling more positive. And I suppose this week's mixed how I feel at work has made me feel a bit better in regards to this week coming, because of the short week it is. So let me explain that. Last week, I was by myself working on Thursday because all of my colleagues went to London to go to a summit, what they call a summit, where everybody is invited to go and meet people and listen to the stand-up talks from the directors and the councillors and so forth that shape the courts system which I work within. And on Wednesday there was the away day, which was a quarterly away day. So a lot of my colleagues finished late on Tuesday, travelled down to London on the Wednesday, did the half-day away day, stayed down on London, and then did the full summit, going back into work on the Friday morning, and then having a half-day on Friday to travel back up to get back to where they live, because a lot of my colleagues work in places like Liverpool and Scotland and places like that. So a lot of the time last week, well, a good day and a half, I was by myself. And, I was looking out for everybody and doing the tickets that came through and getting rid of some of my little jobs and finishing off my career sort of assessment for the year. And obviously, certain jobs come in that you really do require a little bit of assistance with, like I had to do one of the tickets that came through. It was a bulk upload of new devices, but when I actually checked, there was 200 odd devices that were already in the database. So that's where you have to do a risk assessment and go, what should I do? Do I do nothing? And I thought, no, why don't I take the devices that are already there out and upload just the new ones, which means that I've wasted no time. And if I've made the mistake of not uploading those 200 that I took out, they can go in as a separate ticket and there's no time lost. So I felt good about that. I thought that was a good decision by myself. It's what I would have done if I was a manager in my old role. And the only downside on Friday was that we have a half-hour morning sort of meeting, and it was the morning after the summit. And the first 15 minutes of the whole of that meeting was about them at the summit, what pints they bought for what directors, what presentations they liked. And then they got to me, and I told them about the one ticket that I had a problem with. That ticket talk went on for about 5-6 minutes or so. And my own task manager said, come on, we need to get moving with this. We're spending far too much time on it. And I felt a bit disgruntled about that. There was this 15-minute conversation about what pint we bought for people. And the most important thing really was, what did the poor sod that was left by himself needed to do? And if he had a bit of a problem, the assistants needed in the morning to do it. So I was taken aback a little bit by that. And, there's a little bit of resentment in me that goes, well, if we hadn't have talked crap about pints and glasses of wine and all that sort of stuff, we'd have got to the important stuff. So maybe you want to start thinking about what was the important thing about that meeting. And I didn't say any of that, but I did make it a little bit clear in a comment about 20 minutes later, after I'd sort of like calmed down a little bit, saying, I said to my task manager, oh, the other two things I wanted to talk about were these two things, which I never really got the opportunity to say. Which is, yeah, I suppose if you read between the lines, goes, yeah, you cut me short. Thanks, sort of thing. And he came back and said, yeah, go and have a word with Maria about this, and go and have a word with this person about this. It was almost like he didn't really care either. And it was Friday. So at the end of the day, I just felt I don't care either. It's as soon as that 4 o'clock or so comes along, I'm off, and I'll worry about it Monday. So I suppose that's the other reason why I feel like I do. The sun is out, it's blue skies, I can hear the mower, I'm looking at the garden. Only part of the week I was by myself with no other people bothering me, and next week I've got a 3-day week. So yeah, you know, I suppose that's one of the reasons why I'm feeling a bit optimistic, and that's pretty much been my week. Other than the nice things like watching the odd film, which you'll see the trailers for, and playing the odd game. And the one thing I will talk about the games now is that I'm really, really itching to get into, let me explain here, a real-time strategy game. I'm really itching to play one. And I was huge into real-time strategy games. And then they sort of died a death, and I died a death with them. In other words, I didn't bother going back to them. I haven't seen what's been developed in the last 10 or so years. When I've looked at platforms like Steam, they've all been remastered versions of older ones, which is fine. But I really want something new. Do you know what I mean? And we'll talk about it in a section in a moment. A little bit later on, but I think we'll get crack-a-lacking now with how we start these things, which is basically the news. Let's get that out of the way. And I have to say this as well, that I've listened less to the radio and caught the news really on Friday and Saturday when I was flipping through channels. But there are 2 big news stories, and they all happened at the end of the week. So I don't think I really missed anything that was going on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday too much, because I think all of the news that's got everybody talking at the moment has happened on Friday and Saturday. So let's start off as we always do, which is the war in Ukraine. And as you know, last week there was the general election for Russia. But something major has happened since then. So I'll read out what I've got listed down here, hopefully in as best as I can, because my writing is atrocious at the moment, I must admit. I'm writing very fast, and it's looks like chicken scrawl. So what I've written down is, Putin says all 4 gunmen who carried out a deadly attack at a concert hall in Moscow have been arrested. He said all 4 were heading out of Moscow towards Ukraine. Islamic State, ISIS, have stated they caused the attack, but Putin appears to have ignored this. President Zelensky states President Zelensky states that Putin is trying to shift blame for the attack on Ukraine in a very low move. In this attack, 133 were killed and 140 injured. So yeah, I was surprised to see this footage of people ducking for cover inside this concert hall. And then it cut to the aftermath, and the whole concert hall was blown up, totally torched. And then the follow-up on it was that the assailants were caught. It showed you the road that they were caught on, but it didn't show which direction they were heading in. And then most of the news showed the 4 gunmen before they went in, all obviously blurred out, and ISIS's own statement in their own language saying that they caused this and they were doing it for certain reasons. And all I can say about it is it seems Putin is desperate to try and put anything on Ukraine. Although there is a question mark over everything, because if the 4 gunmen have been caught and they've been caught in Russia, what truth is going to come out of that? Are they going to, oh yeah, they admitted they were from Ukraine? Is that their statement that they're going to come out with? Is Putin going to be blatant, going to turn this around to being a war moment to get people in Russia on his side? Yeah. And the emphasis of the whole thing seemed to be not on the 133 that were killed and the 140 that were injured. The only part that was showing in the news articles about any of the fallout of civilians being part of this was that a lot of Russians have come forward to the blood banks to supply much needed blood to help with the people that were injured, which is great. So yeah, that was a major story in it, and the pictures were quite harrowing. And my thoughts are always with Ukraine, but my thoughts are also with those poor people that went to see a concert and then, had that happen to them. It's not the civilians' fault. This wars are always political. It's the politicians. So, I've got no qualms with Russian civilians. They're as much in the firing line as anybody else, And the next big story is on our own doorstep, which is the Princess of Wales, Kate. She's issued out a statement, and I'll read it out. It's Kate, Princess of Wales, says she is in early stages of treatment for cancer. She stated it was a huge shock to her system after a turbulent few months, but is feeling stronger every day and wished her followers best health. For all their kind words is what I put. And, I had a funny feeling about this because there was this doctored photograph after her coming out of the hospital to have a operation on her stomach. The king came out at the same time as Kate, they went in at the same time. He came away with cancer, and she's come out and she's got cancer. And you think to yourself, wow, what a start to the year. And you then look at your own start of the year and you think, thank God I haven't started like that. I've got no doubts that she'll have the best treatment. But you hear the word C and it scares me. Chills me to the bone when I hear the C word. So my thoughts are with her. She's a very young lady, beautiful lady. And does an awful lot for charities and so forth, her and William I've got a lot of respect for, really, more than I do for Harry. But again, I wouldn't want anything nasty to happen to Harry and his wife, even though I feel, he's gone down a different route, and a route that I don't agree with. And that's the end of the news, really. It was just those 2 news articles, but they're huge articles that have taken over pretty much all of the news for the last couple of days. And I wouldn't be surprised if people that might be watching this in another country don't know about those stories already. I think they're worldwide news, even to the point of Princess of Wales. So we move forward, don't we, now? And we get to the nice stuff, the stuff that I like to do. And, we do the shout-outs. And you know how much I love the shout-outs. The people that have left a comment for me to see how I am. Makes me feel wanted and needed a little bit. Because if they weren't there, then basically I'd be talking to silence, just because somebody has watched it. If they haven't left a comment, for all I know, they watched 30 seconds of it. YouTube doesn't tell you really very much in regards to, out of all of the people that have watched, how much they've watched. It does give a timeline, but the analytical data is, very hit and miss in regards to what it means because of their own algorithm. Weird. Anyway, these are the people that have left comments, and my eternal gratitude to them. They are, and hopefully I haven't missed anybody: Martroid, Ian Hill the Ramblings, Stevie Paperboy, David Retro Games Played Badly, Colin Jones, aka Ponder, Steve's Gaming, Born in the 70s Gaming, Wee Bob Art, and Denny. And the only thing actually that I can say about it, and I will check this later on, is I forgot that I did a video on Thursday, I think, or was it Friday? I did another one of my capsule reviews on films, and I haven't checked to see whether people in there are different to the comments that I've got in my shout out. So I will just check that before the end of this blog and give a nice thank you to them. I'm pretty sure they'll be the same people, but you never know, there might be the odd new one, and I would definitely like to mention them because I'm very thankful that they took their time out to watch a capsule review of a film that's quite old. You know what I mean? I'm quite new at the game of doing it. I've chosen ones that I feel safe to talk about. So there's nothing edgy, about what I might have missed about it. A sub story or something that I forgot to mention or something like that. Subliminal message that is given out in the film from a political perspective or something like that. I like to stay safe with the early ones, but that doesn't mean I haven't put an awful lot of effort into watching it again, writing some notes, and then doing a small 10-12 minute capsule review. So a lot of things go into 12 minutes of YouTube footage. I mean, watching the film alone is an hour and 40. And then the notes and everything else. So yeah, nothing is simple. So those were the shout outs, and we might as well then go straight into the comments that they left. Just going to take a small drink. And these are not in any order. But the first, hang on, let's see if we can put it in order. It's got at the moment top comments. I'm going to change that to newest first. There we are. And then expand them all out again. So do apologise for that. It also refreshes the list in case I've missed any. So there was method in my madness here. And the first one that comes up is Wee Bob Art, who left one 4 hours ago. Isn't that great? So I'm glad I might have missed it. But it says here, thanks for answering my question, Dal, and your kind words as always. And as always, I hope you have had a better week. Questions for this week, if I am not too late. I downloaded a game called Re-Entry from Steam. It is a one-man band simulator of the NASA space missions. Oh, now you've caught my attention. NASA missions, okay. I've been loving it so far, even though a lot of the game is reading checklists and flipping switches. Yeah, I bet it is. I would love it if the developer could code in proper radio comms for the entire game, and maybe one day he will. Yeah. Oh, so I take it you don't hear the give me a go, no go for launch, Capcom, and all of this sort of stuff. I take it they don't do any of that. Oh, that's a shame. My question to you is, what was your favourite space simulator game have been? Good God. Right, okay. For me, the next one I think about is an arcade game where you have to thrust, etc., to land your lunar lander on the surface safely. I'm certain it is a vector type game. Anyway, have a great Sunday, and I'm happy if you just answer in the comments if you've already recorded your blog. Oh no, I always try to do the very best to keep things up to date. And what a great question, because I think it's only the last week or so that things about flight simulators has been talked about. There's a really, and I urge you all to watch Mamemeister. He's done a thing on Super Huey, a game that came out on the C64 and was a very early game on the 16-bit Amiga and Atari ST. So early that there's no changes to it. I mean, it looks like a high-resolution Commodore 64 game. There's literally nothing in it. And yet they wanted an extra 20-odd pounds for it for being on a different platform. Which is funny if you watch the video. Because I remember playing that game on the C64 and being very impressed. And then you watch it on the Amiga and you go, what a bag of Spanish shit that is. And they were playing the 16-bit versions. So, yeah, bit of a difference between the two. You're impressed, you see, for me, I am, on the 64 version, and not impressed with something that is supposed to be the next generation. You're supposed to be now, you know, going up that step in quality, and it didn't. Anyway, I digress. I did play early sort of like space sim stuff, you know, going beyond Flight Simulator and, you know, and Air Traffic Commander and all of that sort of stuff. I remember playing a game on the 64 called Apollo 18, The Mission to the Moon. That was on the 64. And it's a typical C64 game where you've got really pretty much static pictures. Then you've got a picture of a console and you've got to turn the switches on in a certain order. Very much like if you ever watched Apollo 13, they tried to turn the LEM unit on so that the battery didn't trip, and it had to not go above a certain wattage. Otherwise, if it did, the whole thing just fell to bits. So they have to put it on a certain sequence. That's exactly what Apollo 18 Mission to the Moon was on the Commodore 64. And from that perspective, you'd think pretty boring, wouldn't you? But actually, it was all right. I think you could only get it on disc. And, you know, for a very early sort of like game, I got some enjoyment out of it. The next time I battled something like that, it was on the Amiga. It was called Shuttle, which was a space shuttle game. Very much in the same mold as the Apollo 18 game that I've just talked about, only it's Amiga-fied. You know, the graphics are much more high resolution. There is some vector flight part to it, showing off the power of the 16-bit system. But again, it was bland. I think the word bland is the right word to use, because there is an excitement in these things. If you ever go to Cape Kennedy and you see the marvel of the shuttles and everything, and you see the cockpit, the first thing you think about is, oh my God, how complex does that look? And the second thing is, they all the buttons and everything look the same. How the hell are you supposed to recognise what bits do what without realising that they zone off all the parts, you know, of the console? so that you can't go wrong. But that was space and space travel back then. It was not about how glossy and how whether you're going to use like a blushed aluminium dashboard with LEDs everywhere, and it was all about the functionality. So yeah, Shuttle was a bit bland. And then I've only played 2 space sims since then that I can think of. One is called Orbiter, which is on the PC, and it came out 24 years ago. So what, about 2000, 2001. And you'd expect an increase in quality, and there damn well is. And if I remember rightly, it was free. I don't know if it is anymore. Don't know if you can get it anymore. It might be abandonware now. But the one that everybody is really going to remember, if they've got a Steam library, or if they go to Good Old Games or Green Man Gaming or any of those, humble bundle websites, you'll see all the time the Kerbal Space Program come up. The Kerbal Space Program is a sort of like a more modern day attempt at trying to do space travel in a sim type environment where it's serious and you're needing to fly your ship. You have to design the rockets, design it from the ground up to the sequence of launching to getting out of orbit. And to be quite honest, I don't think I ever actually achieved an orbit in that game, no matter how hard I tried. But it was fun. The thing about it was fun, and I did spend quite some hours on that. It's one I might actually think about going back to. But I've purposely left out things like Sci-Fi Trading Company and Elite and No Man's Sky, because although those are space sims, you certainly mentioned that what you were doing was NASA related. And No Man's Sky and Elite and all of those are not NASA related. They're faster than light travel, warp speed type environments with trading between planets and so forth, which is not NASA at this stage. So I hope that gives you a good answer. I certainly had to think there about the games. My God. And you mentioned the vector graphic game Lunar Lander. Yeah, what a brilliant game. I remember playing a sort of semi version of Lunar Lander on my VIC-20, which was not vector at all. It was blocky graphics, huge, massive ship. You had to use little thrusts to not land hard, and you got points based on which landing platform you chose. Yeah. And yes, I've played the vector version that you're talking about in the arcades. You don't see that about much anymore. So whenever you do see it, it's worth having a little go on. Obviously, I've played it more on MAME than I have seen it out in the real world, but I have actually played it on real hardware. So I've been privileged probably to do that, because it is one of those harder games to see if you're going to an arcade museum, say. So we move on. But my salute to you, wee Bob. Thank you very much, and continue that art. I need to get crack-a-lacking with Rebella, that software, and I'm really looking forward to doing that. I started to do some art on my phone because it's got a pen, and my phone is one of the larger folds, so I can start doing some little doodles. And yeah, I'm starting to think, I could probably draw some hands now and faces and body and so forth, because what I've been doing is little doodle arts on hands and the dynamic poses that you can put them into, using basic cylindrical shapes, to do, menace or fists or, welcome hands and that sort of stuff, and getting to understand, the length of the fingers and so forth. So yeah, very interesting. So now we move to my next person, and a salute to Wee Bob Art. And we get to my friend Denny, who left comments 11 hours ago. Ah, bless him. And oh my God, I've just looked at how long it is. Let me just take a swig. He treats me so well, Denny. He actually phoned me on Friday. And we had a nice chat, and we've got something that's going to be happening in the next couple of weeks. So nothing's lost in regards to doing our little live skits, broadcasts. So they'll be happening in the next 2 weeks. So look out for that. Anyway, he starts off with, "Hiya, mate. Late uploading my notes again this week. Again, a not so very good week in our household. Both my folks now have the flu, coughing constantly, and I'm writing this. My throat is getting sore by the hour. Just hope things have improved a little for you and your mother. Enjoyed our chat on Friday. Again, a long time coming due to work commitments and illness. Great as always to catch up, absolutely. And please wish your mum and dad speedy recovery. And I'm a bit worried now in the fact that your throat is getting sore. So, rest up, matey. Take some honey or whatever it is to ease that throat a little bit. Lemsips, whatever it takes. I know that you're hypertensive as well, so I do know you have to be careful with the type of Lemsips and stuff that you can take, because those decongestants play havoc with your meds, I tell you. So anyway, you continue. So I've took your advice and got an art portfolio folder to hold my A3 movie posters in. The pages, I'm told, are A3 plus in size. Another hobby, but I love looking at the old artwork in the 70s and 80s movies. First one is The Land That Time Forgot. Some films have more than one design, so it's a bigger rabbit hole than I think. Oh yeah, different countries, different artwork. Not all cinemas were Canon, they were Odeon, and I'm pretty sure that they had a range of posters. Depends on the distributor, I suppose, and the cinema house. So you continue. Big week this week for purchases. Doctor Who Season 15. Jamie and the Magic Torch. Raven, starring Lee Majors. It's a bit like The Master with Lee Van Cleef. The Abyss. Come Back Lucy. Got this old network release mainly because I liked the trailer, and it was produced by Sean O'Riordan, and who did Sapphire and Steel. My God, yeah, you've mentioned some stuff there. So Doctor Who Season 15, talk about that in a bit. Jamie and the Magic Torch, an old kid's favourite. Who could not like Jamie and the Magic Torch? I've even got the tune going in my head now with that stupid dog Wordsworth. Raven, starring Lee Majors. It's a bit like The Master with Lee Van Cleef. I know The Master. I know Lee Van Cleef was in it. I know it was half a season at best before it was cancelled. Raven, I can't remember Raven. No, totally lost on me on that one. I can't remember. The Abyss. So, yeah, there's obviously a big backstory on The Abyss. It's the first time coming to any medium other than DVD, because there was no Blu-ray of it. It's now on 4K with a Blu-ray in the disc set as well. And not in this country because of a certain scene. So my Abyss is actually not coming from America, it's coming from Italy. So my one will be coming a little bit later, because these are American that you've ordered that from. I take it you've ordered that from America. Come Back Lucy. Got this old network release mainly because of the trailer. I don't remember Come Back Lucy. But I do know Sapphire and Steel. And if it was written or produced by him, I'm intrigued. So good for you. A lot of stuff there. Dead jealous a little bit about some of it, because it's always nice to discover something new. And if I haven't seen it, I'm thinking to myself, "Oh, the little bastards got in a TV program that I can't even remember." Ooh, oh, not having that. I always thought I was the historian. You know what I mean? Not that I am. But there we go. So you continue. Thanks for answering my question. Extended versions I tend to like were most that you mentioned. Plus, I like the extended version of Alien 3 with 30 minutes of added footage and Dawn of the Dead, which had a lot of different cuts. Yeah, I could have mentioned quite a few, couldn't I? You know, I mentioned, I mean, I didn't mention, what was it? The Postman. Oh, now that's a film that, way too long. Kevin Costner on a downward spiral with The Postman. Was it after Waterworld? I think it was. Yeah, that wasn't a high point of that year. But yeah, totally agree. I think some things are much better shorter, and some things are so much better longer because of the characters that are in it, or the story demanded it, or it puts a different emphasis on things. I was 12 when Star Trek the Motion Picture came out. Yes, it did feel quite different to the series, but I absolutely loved it and preferred the longer pace of the film. The latest 4K update was stunning. That's the way to update something old. Yes. So, I've talked many times about Star Trek the Motion Picture. And I do mean to do something more on these films that I've got a guilty pleasure on. And I could go on and on and on about Star Trek the Motion Picture. But it was such an eye-opener. I mean, when it came to the special effects, I was in love with the score from day one. And even now, every iteration of that score that comes out, I'm itching to buy it again, even though there's next to nothing extra in it. It'll be a new recording, a new spectral recording, a new version with this orchestra or that orchestra, or conducted by this bloke. You know, it just goes on and on and on. But it's you just want to hear as many variants as possible. Do you know what I mean? I'd hear an all synth version if they brought one out. You know, it'd be just, I'll just get it. You know, panpipe Star Trek the Motion Picture might be something I wouldn't invest in. You know what I mean? But there we go. And I honestly, I've scoured YouTube and I've put in, you know, home versions of Star Trek the Motion Picture main theme and all sorts of stuff. I do that. I just like to know a different take on something. You then continue. As for Guild Wars, oh yeah, well, I talked about Guild Wars, didn't I? As for Guild Wars, if you search the net, there are strong rumours 3 is in development on the Unreal 5 engine. Sounds fantastic, but I don't like their gem shop and the prices, plus the impossible game mechanic achievements. Trouble with their achievements is they are tied to each individual map. Soon as the map is done and there's no way to help kill champions. Terrible design. Do you know what? That's happening in Enshrouded. And they brought that same design and then they've reversed it. And you now can go back. I would find it very strange if a major studio that brought out Guild Wars and then Guild Wars 2 had a design that they didn't rethink and then go back on, unless they were really seriously trying to alienate everybody and kill the franchise, because it is a franchise as well. No, it's not. It's an IP, intellectual property. Yeah. Sorry, so I used the wrong word. Yeah, I love Guild Wars. Love Guild Wars 2, and I mentioned why I'm not going back to it at the moment. It would be just too difficult, and I'd never be able to put the hours in. So you continue. I want to like Wonka, but the trailer does literally nothing for me and doesn't have the screen presence of the 1971 version. But what does these days, really? And I totally get that. It was sort of what I was trying to get across. I liked Wonka, but I know that it wasn't written for me. It's a magical book with a modernized look to it for a new audience with nods to the original. And I will always say quintessentially that the 1971 Gene Wilder version is my version. I don't know what people think about the Johnny Depp one. I saw it and went, nah. And when I saw Wonka, I thought, this is more like the original. But again, it's added and changed the music, and they're not the same tunes and all of that sort of stuff. And so I get distracted because I see the way that the film veers differently to the one that I'd seen. And those decisions to veer off in that certain direction are sometimes the ones where I go, no, you don't change that. That was brilliant in the original film. But you got to remember, it's not for me. It's for the young kiddies, that are going to be talking about this like I talk about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory in the 70s when I saw it. You see what I mean? They want their own film to talk about. So I get it. So you continue. I so want that Grid Runner game you showed. Looks like coughing up again. Expensive month. Yeah. It's now gone back up to its original price. The initial couple of days where it was, I think, 15% off has been taken away. So you missed the boat on that. But it is worth it if you are a huge Jeff Minter or Llamasoft fan and you've got most of the games. It's still worth it for the documentary. Like I say, I have no qualms when I bought it. Brilliant. And I still need to do my own little capsule review of it, and I will do. So you got a question for this week, you said. What's your take on the rat sequence in the abyss? Submerging it in the... You knew you were going to put in a word that makes me stumble. Fluorocarbon liquid. Would you consider it animal cruelty? ? So, it's a question that's been asked ever since it was cut out of the British version when it first came out. And it's one that I could never really give a good answer to back then. And I probably will give a crappy answer now because I was more interested in the extra 20 odd minutes that was tagged on to the end than an animal cruelty problem. Now, for those that are not in the know, the Abyss has got a new process of breathing underwater where your whole body, your whole helmet is submerged in a fluid. It's like a gel. And this gel has to go into your lungs, so it's almost like drowning. You will be swallowing this and choking. But this liquid, this goo, gives you oxygen. And it gives you oxygen much better than a gas canister will, which will just run out. Because this constantly generates oxygen to your lungs. But what you have to understand is you have to go through that drowning sensation. And they showed it quite well in the film. There was a very big need to show you how it worked. And they did it with a rat. So they dangled this rat in this goo. And if you ever see the scene, the rat is obviously in distress. But then you see the rat and it's perfectly fine. It's underwater, breathing. No problems. For the British version, they cut the scene out. But the only part of the scene that they cut out was the distress part. And how they did it by cutting to the faces of the actors rather than showing you the rat in distress. And when the film was going to come out on 4K over here, the you know, the BBFC, you know, the people that do the certification over here, said that the scene had to be cut out. James Cameron said, no, it won't be. We're not going to bend to that rule anymore. And James Cameron says, right, well, the UK won't get it then. And fair play to him. It's his film. Personally, if it was me, and we're in a modern audience now, I would have done it like a cut sequence where you can press a button on your remote and it will show you the old version. And if you don't press that button, it would play the scene as it was originally supposed to be shown with the rat in distress. So both parties are catered for, and if you're ever a person that don't like to see animal cruelty, then you can opt out. It's an opt-out button. That's what I could call it, an opt-out button. And DVDs are perfectly good at doing that, because I remember back in the early days, they did what they call multi-angle DVDs, where they showed you the same scene, but because the way DVDs are recorded, you could actually watch two different viewpoints of the same scene by pressing a button called multi-angle. And you could have done that with this. So you asked the question, what's your take on the rat sequence? And my take on the rat sequence is that we've grown up enough that we should be able to choose what we want. But when it comes to, do I consider James Cameron an arse for not taking it out? No, it's his film. Who do I think are the arses? The British Broadcasting Censorship, who could have actually come up with that as an idea, or re-looked at it and then given a different certification. Because what have they achieved? They've achieved nothing, because anybody who wants that film now just goes to a country where they're not worried about that scene, and you just order it from there. And what I mean by other country, any country other than the UK who is not getting it. We're the only country that is not getting that film. So all I'm doing now is just waiting an extra week for it to be released in Italy, and I'm ordering the Italian one. Like I say, I could have got the American one. But like I say, I just ordered the Italian one because it's PAL. And it will have the English language track there. So not worried one bit about it. And that's my answer, matey. So you've then put, cheers, mate. My best as always to your mother, and the same to you, my friend. Thank you so much. Just going to take a little drink now. And we move to Ian the Hill, the Ramblings. Now, hopefully you guys have been listening to what I've said and have subbed to him. Sweet, nice guy. Content out this world. It's just like relentless all through the week. So you're never going to get bored, I can tell you that. So he starts off with, hi, from the 100-year-old git. Did I say 100-year-old git to him? I'm so sorry. Didn't mean to. You 100-year-old git. Now, I did happen to see you and Ryan on a live stream, which you gave me this mention. Hope you and your mum have had a good week, particularly after the bad week before. I was very impressed by your review of Excalibur and unboxing. Hopefully they will become regular. I was excited by the arrival of Doctor Who The Collection Season 15. That's coming up an awful lot in these comments. Such a beautiful looking box set. Loved it. Always makes me realise how much I love classic Doctor Who. With the series of Aliens coming out on 4K, all I hear how brilliant it is, and that it's the best of the Alien films. They use the excuse that it's an action film, but no matter how they pretend, it's not science fiction. Well, they must have been watching another film to me. My favourite will always be Alien. From the moment I saw it at the cinema, I loved it. This was a perfect sci-fi horror film, which over the years I've watched a lot. This week I've loved watching Brian Clement's creation Thriller, a 70s classic, brilliant stories and acting in this anthology series. It fuels my 70s nostalgia in TV series, films and music. Doing my weekly review of Hitchcock films, I've become interested in seeing more Cold War thrillers. So my question to you this week is, what is your favourite Cold War film? Best wishes and have a grand time. Hey, I've been practicing that. Grand time. How was that? Better? No? Yeah. Right. First of all, apologies if you took offence to the 100-year-old git. Hopefully you took it the right way. To apologise. Doctor Who, what can I say? Everybody's talking about season 15. I'll talk about that a little bit later on. With the release of Aliens on 4K, yes, so just like The Abyss, Aliens and True Lies are coming out at the same time. Aliens being the follow-up to Alien. Aliens, in some minds, is what they call the better film, better than the original film, which I disagree with. Wholeheartedly, I disagree with. Because they're two totally different perspectives and pace. One is an all-out action war army invading the alien world film. The other one is a claustrophobic paranoia discovery suspense story in space. And I prefer that one. So the Ridley Scott original Alien over Aliens. But what I will say this is, they're darn close to each other. It's just that it all depends on which way you want to go with this film. Do you want huge amounts of aliens, or are you just scared of just one? And I don't need to see hundreds of Jasons or hundreds of Freddy Kruegers. I can be scared of just the one if I want, and that'll be enough for me. So it's just a particular take. So when you're talking about it and you're giving that much effort into explaining to me why Alien will always be the film for you, totally get it. Don't be put off by Aliens. Oh, what a film. And the extra, what was it, 26 minutes, I think? 26 minutes, yeah. In the film, definitely worth the watch. You know, it gives you a little bit of backstory on child peril in that particular cut of the film. But you go on and you say about Cold War films, and I have to say, I haven't watched too many Cold War films. I never really got them. I found them very sophisticated. My dad was engrossed in them. I remember I sat down with my dad and we watched, what was it called? Fourth Protocol. And I didn't get it. And then the Commodore 64 game came out of it called the Fourth Protocol. And it got a gold medal or a silver award in my favourite computer game review magazine, Zap 64. And I still got nowhere in it. No matter how somebody turns around and says what a great film something is, depending on your age, you either got it or you didn't. And sometimes it can put you off going back and rewatching it in an adult mindset. I've actually gone back to the Fourth Protocol and I've actually got a better understanding and respect for it. But I understand, even with my brain moving as many years forward as that, than that which has obviously happened, I can understand how my brain just didn't understand it, because it's still complex now. But things that come to mind. There was a remake of Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Was it 8 years ago? Which was brilliant. And that is definitely a Cold War story that I think people should watch. When I think about what was going on in the Cold War, a couple of action films come to mind: Hunt for Red October and Crimson Tide, for two totally different reasons, although they are both set on a submarine. The Hunt for Red October because of the story of that one. And of course, Sean Connery didn't give a shit about talking with a Russian accent. He still spoke in a Scottish accent. God bless him. Gotta respect him for that, haven't you? Crimson Tide, though, had it all for me. What was it? Denzel Washington and Gene Hackman? Yeah, Denzel Washington, Gene Hackman. The score was by Hans Zimmer. I bought the score immediately. Fantastic score. Oh my God. Played that one to death. I remember when that came out. But when I was watching films with my dad and I talked about the Fourth Protocol, I do remember a film called Ice Station Zebra. That had Rock Hudson and Ernest Borgnine in it. In fact, it was on telly 4 weeks ago on BBC Two, and I watched it even then. And that's a good film. You know, it's got a bit of paranoia in, some sabotage going on in the submarine, etc., etc. But you know, that's a great one. And I'm going to mention, I mean, there are plenty more. There's Bridge of Spies and all sorts of stuff. I'm going to mention one more called 13 Days, because that one really was an eye-opener for me, because it really tells the story of the Cuban Missile Crisis. And if anybody knows anything about the Cuban Missile Crisis, you'll know that we were very, very close to nuclear annihilation. And this happened over a period of 13 days, hence the title, 13 Days. And that's a great film. That really is a good film. I definitely recommend that. But to me, the standout is Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, probably because I've seen the series, listened to the audio book, and that film had an excellent portrayal by all the actors that are in that. Great film. Thank you so much, Ian. That's absolutely wonderful. Great question. Cold War films are a bit of a difficult subject, because it's not something I think more of war films than I think of a specific Cold War film. I mean, I could mention so many others. There's the Ipcris file. Is that with Michael Caine? Yeah. Yeah. There's so many. And I much prefer the bigger film scale stuff. World War II, World War One, Vietnamese War, etc., etc., than the Cold War. So anyway, hope that gave you a good answer. Salute, my friend. Thank you so much. I'm continuing to watch your stuff. Then we get to Colin, aka Ponder. Thanks very much, Colin, for whatever you're going to be writing here in advance. You've put, let's see if this deemed suitable to keep by the YouTube robots. Yes, this is about the fact that comments are disappearing. So thank you very much for anybody that is still sending me comments, even though they risk them not getting through to me. That's what I wanted to say. Very difficult. So yeah, thank you so much for that. So you say you're watching less and less. I've hit that one. I spend more time doing stuff myself than watching what others are doing. Yes. So last week I purposely mentioned that I sort of like stayed away from a particular genre and stick to more what I was doing. And it's because of what was going on at work and how I was feeling. It's nothing to do with my friends. It's nothing to do with their content. It's just I needed a little bit of time to reflect and go, is it worth me carrying on looking at chat channels and so forth when I have very little input in it? I mean, I mean, I'm part of a Discord on here. I'm sometimes asked to go on to Mamemeister's stream. If you're not part of the vocal community in regards to films, then of course your name gets forgotten, and you go to yourself, what was the point in that? So, yeah. But the thing is, films is my passion. It's as big a passion as anything else, and therefore, should I cut my nose off to spite my face? No. So you'll see that I've gone back and I've looked at a few of my friends' stuff again, and I'm so glad I did this week. They do some cracking stuff. All it means is I've got a lot of catching up to do. You know, that's all it means. Because I'm very passionate about promoting my friends. Because I only promote what I think is gold. I don't just put anything down. So if I mention a channel, it's because I really like it. You know what I mean? Or I'm sounding it out for being crap. Anyway, see, you carry on. Seems like my massive comment got deleted. I'll post what I wrote in Discord and repost the question here. To be fair, the Sony to micro SD adapters are dirt cheap. Yeah, that's an answer to what I was talking about in regards to PSP and Vita. But what you have to understand here is that those card and their use of them came out really after the life scale of the actual device itself. I didn't see many SD card readers adapters for the Vita or the PSP while the device was being manufactured, and they've come out now when Sony don't really give a shit. So yeah, I'm not surprised that people have got that solution now. But what a shame that it had to get to the point of not making the console anymore for there to be a solution. Sony, you're just greedy bastards. We didn't need your proprietary memory system. Paid enough for the console. I do buy the occasional CD, you continue. I have even recently got a DVD. I also intend to get an external Blu-ray player, DVD writer, and would like to try some Blu-ray movies. Good for you. Trying something different, trying to go into a different direction, enjoying something that could also relax you like your hobby actually does, and we know that. So you've put here my question again, because you put again, because obviously the first one got lost. Which late computer from the 8-bit period do you think deserve to have done much better? Ooh. That's a tricky one. First of all, when did the 8-bit era end? Is it when the 16 bits came out? Because there are certain consoles that came out very late that were 8-bit. But we are talking computers. I'm going to go with two. One, the Tandy Coco 3 or TRS-80. It's a continuation of the TRS-80. Because it came out late 80s. And it had some interesting things to say. But it came out at a time where everybody was moving to the 16-bit, so it just died a death. And I think the I'd like there to have been an MSX3. Now, I know that there was an MSX2 Plus. And the MSX is one of those devices where I think the more RAM you threw into it, the more you could have developed bits that were already great. You had the chance of keeping up with the big boys and therefore coming out with a machine that stands out from the crowd and the old familiar, like the Commodore 64, the Ataris, the Spectrums, the Amstrads, and so forth. So yeah, those are my two, Colin. MSX, I'd like there to have been an MSX3, and the Coco 3, which I think is the Tandy TRS-80, but it's a Model 3 version. I'd have liked those to have been more successful than what they were. And we're now getting down to David. So salute to you, Colin. Thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to your blogs. We move to David's retro games play badly. And he's put verbatim, keeping me company at work as usual, matey. With regards to recutting films, I'm in two minds. Sometimes it adds depth to the film. I would add Avatar. The added scenes make the film make much more sense. Yes, so there's a typical example. And there are certain films as well where they've elongated it and they should never have bothered. They were right in the first place. And I totally get those as well. But yeah, I understand totally where you're coming from with that. But when films are messed with, just because times have changed, I disagree. Han shot first. So he's talking about a Star Wars retake of the... and basically... they've added all the special effects to it and cut the film slightly different. Leave him well alone, George Lucas, is all I got to say. So he was talking about Han Solo. Pretty sure of that. You then carry on with just one singular words, and I know what it is. It's where I was asked about the games in the 8-bit era, the 16-bit era, and the 13-bit era and modern. I gave my answers. Here's for the 8-bit era, carrier command. Now I have a disagreement with that because the 8-bit version of carrier command on the Spectrum is immense. It's really good. But when you look at the Commodore 64 version, it's a top-down sprite thing. And it's awful. Not all computers were built equally. You could only get away with carrier command as it was with a fast processor like the Spectrum had. The graphic capabilities of the Commodore Amiga does not suit vector graphics very well. It can do them, but anybody will see that it's like a flip book because it's only got a 1 megahertz processor in it, and the Spectrum's got 4. But again, things aren't built equally, and the Commodore has got its own graphic chip and can do sprites, and the Spectrum can't. And the Commodore 64 has got hardware scrolling, and the Spectrum does not, and so forth and so forth. So of course, you'll mention carrier command, and when I think of carrier command on the 8-bits, I think to myself, yeah, but that's beyond the norm. But anyway, 16-bit you choose as Settlers, great choice. 32-bit Sudoku, yeah, I can see that. Modern game, Skyrim, yes. And everybody knows that I'm starting to play Skyrim. I've had it for years and years and years. I've had it from day one, never played it. So I'm starting on that. Brilliant answers you've got there, David. I wouldn't contradict any one of them, but carrier command I think is an anomaly on the 8-bits, and only really stands out on one platform. You say thanks for the kind words, mate. Everybody does that, and I go, it's my pleasure to give kind words because I only give them out to ones that deserve it. I've seen your channel, I've seen it grow, I've seen you talk, I've seen you adapt and your stance and your language based on the video that you're doing. And as far as I'm concerned, it's quality, mate. Nothing else to say about it. And if you haven't seen it already, please go and look out for David's Retro Games Played Badly. You will not be disappointed. You then carry on. Don't fancy Wonka. Stand By Me as a classic. So, just like many others, including Denny, Wonka isn't for you. Stand By Me, which I got on 4K Steelbook last week, is a classic. And what could I say? You're dead right. And you've enjoyed the trailers, and that's my pleasure as well. So we're going to be moving on, but I'm going to just take just a simple little break, just to splash some water on, check my mother's okay, and then we're going to finish off because there's not many more questions to go, and there's not too much to actually discuss, if you see what I mean. So we're very, very near the end, and I thank you so much for watching to this point. But I'll be here in just a second. And we're back. Just a couple of jump cut for you. For me, a couple of minutes. Just checked on my mum. She's okay. So I'm just going to carry on with the comments. We get to Martroid. He's left me 3 messages. My God. Here we go. So I'm probably going to read these in the wrong order, but I apologize for that. So I'll try and get them in the right order. Here we go. I'll go bottom upwards then. Hey Del, totally agree with you about the extended editions of Lord of the Rings, especially the Return of the King, if only for the mouth of Sauron bit. The Abyss too. In fact, I wouldn't want to go back to the original for that one. And finally, Aliens. Love the section with the machine gun turrets. For theatrical versions, I'd have over the extended directional cuts. I would definitely go with Blade Runner and Dune. I prefer them with the voiceovers, I suppose. Then he continues, I ended up getting the PS4 version of Llamasoft, the Jeff Minter story, just so I can run it on my 65-inch Sony TV. 65-inch, my God, that's 55-inch behind me. Can't afford, well, it's not about afford, it's room, and that's big. But my God, 65-inch Sony. Bet that's a mammoth, probably an OLED as well, so I bet it looks beautiful. I know a few people have an issue with some of the sampled sounds, etc. But overall, for me, it's a massive win. The Attack of the Mutant Camels 89 demo is lovely to play, and Twin Sticks on Llamatron is great fun too. Of course, the main draw is all the history, which I will work through and savour over time, even though I'm pretty encyclopedic about the subject in general. Cheers, mate. My pleasure, and I'm still doing that mini capsule review of it at some point. Hopefully, being as I'm on half week this week, I might do it this week. And he's put, and finally for today, real hardware versus emulation. It seems to me that people who make this argument are oftentimes trying to justify a purchase they've made, which can be the case for both sides. At the end of the day, though, if it's not the original hardware, then it's an emulation of that hardware. But who cares? As long as people are having fun, then they've made the right choice. And the discussion of it, if one is better than the other, is futile. In my case, I like a bit of emulation, streaming, whatever, because as you so eloquently stated, it's convenient. But I'd prefer to play original hardware if I can. Case in point, I may try Iridis Alpha, which is a Jeff Minter game, by the way, on the new Llamasoft retrospective. But I'm going to seriously play it. Then I'm heading for the Commodore 64 with my micro switch joystick, because that's how I would personally play it. Anyway, brilliant blog as always, Del. And no, my pleasure. And thank you, Martroid, for coming out with 3 comments. And that means I must have hit a good point, being as you've written 3 comments on the trot there. And I can't disagree with any of it. Mamemeister came out with a very, very good point, and I agreed with all of it. The only thing I disagreed with was the simile that he used, which was about films. It's a totally different ball game when you start talking about films. Should I watch it on physical media? Should I watch it on streaming? There is a distinct difference between the two. When it's talking about emulation, should I play it on emulation or should I play on real hardware? There is a simile there, but there is a snobbery there. The snobbery isn't there with films. There is a distinct difference in the fact that streaming is compressed. You're not seeing the best. You are getting cut down in whether it be it recognizes that your streaming speed is slow, so it cuts it down to 1080p, or it takes away the Atmos track and gives you a 5.1 surround or whatever. And that means that you're distinctly getting a different version. That's not the same in emulation. If your machine can run it, great. If it can't, it looks like shit, plays like shit. On the original hardware, it plays exactly as it's supposed to. So, but when it comes to emulation, generally you're emulating something that's really, really old. if you're watching Laurel and Hardy, say, if you watch a Blu-ray version of it, they have cleaned up the image. So you're not exactly watching it from a projector. I'm not a snob in regards to, oh, you should only watch Laurel and Hardy on 16mm film projected film. No. Different thing. Totally different thing. Which is why I'm totally with everybody, Mamemeister and all of that, because at the end of the day, I'd rather somebody be playing something than not, and experiencing what we were lucky to be able to do. Do you see what I mean? So yeah, I wouldn't want people to miss out. Thank you very much, Martroid. And we move to Stevie Paperboy. And he says, all right, Dalboy, it's been a long time giving you a comment as I've been lost, but love your videos. Oh, that's just nice. Just a simple line that said, just love your videos. Just cheers me up. Absolutely wonderful. I'm glad you're still around, Stevie Paperboy. I hope you're okay. Hope your job's going okay. I know that you're still in with Al and Mamemeister. Please don't go away. We're still all here and we're still loving what we do on these YouTube channels. So salute to you, sir. And then we've got Born in the 70s Gaming, who left me a comment. He put, who do you think would win, Freddy or Jason? Also, do you still do your good mate Scott's stream? Because I haven't seen you on it for months. Cheers. And we didn't get off to the most audacious start, because the reason that he mentioned the Freddy versus Jason thing was because I made a comment that said that I thought some of the questions were coming samey. But actually, what I was actually doing was an actual service to Scott, because I love Scott's stream. I love all the people that leave chats. But what I have noticed is that people take one question like who would win, Freddy or Jason, and turn it into 3 lots of films, you know, like who would win in a battle, Jaws or Piranha, Halloween versus Nightmare on Elm Street, and Alien versus Aliens. And you've got a panel of 6 people, and there's 6 films there, and by the time you've got to the end of deliberating that question, 40 minutes has gone by. And I think that's a disservice to somebody that writes a little simple question that says, name a film that emotionally changed you, which is just as prominent as those other questions. So we had a little chat, Born in the 70s Gaming, him and I didn't realise that he had a channel. So I went to actually have a look at his channel, and I subbed to him, and he does a lot of VR stuff. And I tell you what, it's mesmerising to watch. He's got a PSVR 2 like my friend down the rabbit hole has. And he's playing this game that's a little bit like Breakout, but in VR. It looks amazing. And I was watching it, and I tell you what, he's brilliant at it. My God, it's a little bit like audio surf in the fact that once you've scored and got a score, it posts your score in the cloud, and then other people can claim your throne if they get a better score, and you have to then claim it back. Audio surf does a similar thing with writing your own music. If you pick up more blocks as you're playing that tune, then somebody else can dethrone you, and you then have to play it again. Absolutely brilliant. We've agreed that we're going to play golf at some point, because there's a golf game that works on the PSVR 2 and works on my Quest 3. And I'm really seriously looking forward to that. If you've never come across Born in the 70s Gaming, have a look. It's mostly VR stuff in there. It's not totally. It's not all VR either. It's other games, but it's a personal look at this person's life, and I love that because I'm a nosy bastard. You know what I mean? I love to see what people are doing, and I definitely think that people should give this guy a look at, and definitely, you know, give it a sub if you like it. I know I subbed. I haven't thought twice about it. You know, even this week he's dethroned 3 people on this game, and it's so fun because he gets to the end, he goes, yeah. Well, he doesn't go like that, but I can imagine him doing that in VR. So brilliant. Thank you so much for watching Born in the 70s Gaming, and it was great to talk to you again as well in Scott's stream on Friday. Brilliant. And then we've got my friend Steve's Gaming. Oh, so glad Steve's here. My salute to you, friend Steve, you bastard. You know, we know each other so well that I can get away with that. So what have you got to say to me this week, my friend? He's put, hi Del, dropping this in now. Also, I've copied and pasted it in case it goes walkabout again. These bloody comments that go missing, I tell you. You've put, great blog. Chest infections are a real bugger to get rid of. I wish you all the best and hope you're feeling better soon. To be quite honest, it's never gone away. I feel it there, but it's not been as bad as it was right at the beginning. I went for a walk this week, didn't once have a coughing fit, but it felt tight in my chest, so I know it's still there, and I'm looking forward to seeing the doctor on Tuesday. Hope you feel get better soon. Golden tip. Never, never, never look up your symptoms online when you're not well. 9 times out of 10, it will say something very serious and tell you that you're dying, and it'll spike your stress. I've been there and learnt the hard way. Don't do it. Yeah, I haven't. I just thought to myself, is it my heart? Is it my lungs? Deliberated, and then basically just thought, if it was that, do this. If it was that, do this. So I've taken things like Lemsips to see whether that'll burn, the congestion away. I've continued to take my tablets so that my blood pressure remains the same, etc., etc., stuff like that. And then try to walk through the pain, because I do know that the later part of my walk, I go back to breathing normal. So it gets easier and easier. So I dare say it's just like there's something trapped and it needs pushing out of the way or something. I don't know. I'll know Tuesday, won't I? Hopefully. You can continue. That Sky engineer sounds like a right grumpy Jobsworth type. What a pain in the arse. Yeah, he was. By the way, when comparing power supplies, don't just check the voltage, always check the polarity. Yes, I do. I also know that with that type of end, it could be positive inner core or it could be negative inner core. I know all of that. And that's why I wanted to pass the original plug to the original socket. That's all I wanted to do. I didn't want to use the plug that came from the other one. I asked him a simple question, could it be used? He quite rightly said I wouldn't. And I didn't grumble with that. What I grumbled with is the simple matter of taking it out the plug that was down there and just passing it through to my desk, which would have took 15 seconds. No. That's where I was pissed off. So you're quite right. And a great tip, don't ever think that a plug supply is going to be the same. Check the polarity. Very much so. We need to get together and bully Robert into getting a Steam Deck. I know he'd love it so much. I still really miss mine, and I will get a new one when funds allow it. I don't think I could bully Robert, but definitely I think he'd get a kick out of it, and I think he's got enough money to buy one. And I don't think he'd look back, and I think it'll probably aid his channel as well, because with his Steam stuff, he could hook that Steam device to his capture card. So yeah, I'm with you on that. You continue. Thanks for the kind comments on my channel. Sorry for deleting it, but YouTube just annoyed me so much over the last month or so. I'll find some way to continue, but not sure what yet. I do hope you do, matey. I do miss your stuff. You had a break, you came back. I was getting into it again, and bang, it was gone again, and I was going, oh no. Because your stuff entertains. It's fun. I miss all the death sequences because you're so crap. Only kidding. Okay, enough blather. And now 2 questions for you. Question 1. Why was the 80s so damn good? Question mark. The TV, the music, the films, the games. Just why was it so good? You can't tell me it's all rose-tinted nostalgia because I won't believe you. Yeah, but you've given the answer. You do that. Why was the 80s so good other than what you said? For me, it hit me at the age where I was soaking in information. I soaked in the sounds, the sights, the smells, everything. Every day was something new. Every month was exciting because each month I would be getting something, where I'd saved up enough pocket money or money to get something. It was the years that I left school and got my own job. Going to the pub for to drink with friends for the first time, seeing cinema, older films legally. The music was synth at the beginning, for which I was heavily influenced on, delving into more as it got further and further into the 80s, into the early 90s. It's everything. The clothes. I went through so many different types of clothes. I lost an awful lot of weight. I started to wear jackets with waistcoats. I went out sometimes with just a casual shirt over the top of jeans. Every era has got its something about it. For my dad, I'm sure he was a teddy boy, or a mod. I'm not quite sure. I'd have to ask my mum that. But to me, the 80s was that growing up period, that period of time where, like I say, computers were around, VHS and video was out. Everything was moving forward at such a fast rate that, and I look back at it and I don't know how, but I kept up with it. Something new was out, I saved up, got it. It takes me now a year's worth of planning if I need to consider getting a TV. You know what I mean? To save up for it, and then to think, what's the best one out there, and to finally getting it. And yet back then, a couple of months I had it. Simple as that. I moved from terrestrial TV into satellite TV. Everything was just exciting. That's the word. Exciting. Moving to CD from vinyl. And I mentioned that one at the end with a bit of trepidation because I loved my vinyl and I still love vinyl. But CD was exciting. Looking forward to watching Tomorrow's World, Micro Live, Top of the Pops, the chart show, all of that. It was everything. The magazines, the books, brilliant. Hope that gives you an answer. It's not rose-tinted glasses. It's the era that you probably did the most growing in. To me, is the answer. The year, the decade I did the most growing up. Question 2. Now, it's okay if you don't want to answer this. I will understand. But the question is this. What is your mum's favourite TV show of all time? All time. Take care, mate. And love to your mum. She's not here. I'm going to have to second guess this. All through her life, the soaps have been there. So I'm going to go with Emmerdale and Coronation Street. But she does love Frost. A touch of Frost. Midsummer Murders. Columbo. She does watch those. Quincy. She watches those. She doesn't like Foyle's War. Doesn't like Vera. So I'd have to ask her, going back, is there something about the 60s or 70s that you watched? I know I was named after one of the characters in the Champions. I have asked her, do you remember Randall and Hopkirk deceased? And she says, yeah, I watched it with your dad. It was all right. She doesn't really talk too much about that. And I'll even talk about Starsky and Hutch. And she said, oh, yeah, I remember seeing that. But she never goes, oh, I couldn't miss it. But I do remember even back in the 80s when we only had one TV and we just got our video recorder, she would religiously sit down and watch Emmerdale, Crossroads, Coronation Street, etc., etc. It's weird. She won't watch EastEnders. She said she watched it early on with Dirty Den, but now she says it's all doom and gloom and people killing themselves, so she can't be asked. So hopefully that gives you your answer. And that's the end of the comments. My God. Salute to you, Steve. Thank you so much. I'll try and get an answer for next week from my mum on that, because I'd like to know all time what her favourite is. But right now, I know what she likes, because I have to go in there and watch it with a bloody hell pain in the arse. So I'm going to take a little drink. And we're moving on now to watched on YouTube. And this is that general section where it's some of my friends, but mostly what's come up in my YouTube alert that says, oh, you'd like this. And I actually clickbaited it. You know what I mean? So, there are two that I always watch, and those are This Week in Retro and Tech Moan. They don't even have to come up in my feed. Every Saturday, 10 o'clock, I'm there. So This Week in Retro, they had 3 subjects again. The entire history of role-playing games, Atari today in the arcades, and Hall of Fame for games in 2024. Great subjects this week. The entire history of role-playing games was an interesting one, because role-playing games are a stay point with me through pretty much all of my computer life, including the 8-bits. Role-playing games have been there. The Atari today in the arcades was less a section for me, because I was never a huge Atari fan past the early games. I always thought that their sounds in their games sounded tinny. I don't know, it's hard to explain, and it's giving them a disservice. But some of the stuff that was out there sounded the same, metallic, or not as deep or in depth as, say, a Capcom sounding game, or a Taito game. And I'm probably giving it a disservice there, but I think Atari lost its way towards the end, using more gimmicks than anything to try and stay current. And the Hall of Fame, I disagreed with. They'd added 100 games to the Hall of Fame, and I looked at these 100 games, and there was nothing wrong with it. But this Hall of Fame apparently has been going on for a good number of years now, and they still haven't inducted Elite into it. One of the quintessential games that you think would be a foundation stone of any top 100. SimCity is not there. Huge gaps of stuff where you go, I'm sorry, but certain stuff is foundation stuff, and you still don't have it now. So I'm with Neil by saying they seriously need to look at it, revamp this, go back to the beginning possibly, and then put some of these foundation, what are quite rightly considered foundation games, in there. Because you can't have a list without Elite being in there. You can't have a list without SimCity being there. You can't have a list without having an RTS like Command and Conquer in it. It's ridiculous. Obviously Doom is in there, so they're not that stupid. But you know how I mean. And Techmoan was different this week, but good different. He doesn't do subscriber videos, but this one he did. And the reason he did it was about a year or so back, he wanted to have a mini pinball table. And he went out and self-bought a pinball table from the States because there was no British distributor. And he loved it. Out the blue, they came up to him and said, would you like to have a full-scale pinball table to try? And then once you finish trying it, obviously we move it on to the next YouTube channel to also try it. But because he likes pinball, he went, yeah, why not? Won't hurt, will it? And it's why this particular video starts off as this is a subscription-based video. But it didn't harm the quality of it at all. And he had got from the States, no, from England, because they've got an English distributor now, a Zen pinball table from AT Games called the Addams Family. And this console comes in many different versions. The cheapest base version is £1,599. But we're to have all the bells and whistles. That means the surround sound with the subwoofer and all of that sort of stuff added to it. It was 2,200 and something. For which they sent in the top of the range one. So of course he's got the deluxe. So again, that's going to shadow your thoughts on something if you don't mention it. And of course he mentioned it from the very beginning. He said, do remember the version I've got is the top of the range. But he didn't hold back. You know, he's talked about the problems with it. And he says he hopes in a firmware update they'll fix some of these problems. And in fact, the people that had this pinball table before had all mentioned the same thing. There is a delay on the left flipper, and it's by 0.2 seconds. 0.02 seconds. So you press it, and there's a delay before the flipper moves. And on the right hand, it doesn't have that. And it only happens on the one game, which is the Addams Family, because this table had 15 tables. All the other tables work fine. So every single one of the people that have had this console have said the same thing. It's unplayable. You cannot sell this in the state that it's in. So with that in mind, I saw how easy it was to build this thing, saw the table, saw the other tables, and saw his analogy of the whole thing. And remember, this is a 4K table. It's a 4K table, which means it's got a 32-inch 4K panel plus a 1080p satellite TV screen and a smaller, I think it's a 9x9 dot matrix panel, like a JX board, in this arcade full-size pinball table, which can also, by the way, play arcade games. I'd love one. Never be able to put it anywhere, but I'd love one. Oh my God, just imagine playing Dodochi or something, you know, or Raiden on a 32-inch 4K vertical orientated table, you know, because that's the exact dimensions that Raiden and Dodochi and all of those are in. It'd be immense. Oh, love it. So that was Techmoan. So let me just go now through a couple of the others that piqued my interest. There was a channel called Pico Playtime, and it was about the Pico 8. And it was called Pico Channel Reviewing Games, the Best of 2022-2023. And it was probably a good place for me to start because this guy was saying what the best games were of the year 2022, the best games of the year 2023. It was done in a way that if there was one developer that brought out 10 games, he'd choose what he considered to be the best out of those 10. In other words, you wouldn't see 9 others by that same developer in the list. You could only have one. And it went on for an hour or so, and it was great. And then he's done this for the 21 to 2022, 2022 to 2023, 2023 to 2024, and you get the idea of just how far we're going now with the Pico, and you can see the quality shift. It's great, brilliant, learnt so much. Next video I watched was Video Lifestyle USA. This came up with the title 20 Forgotten Toys from the 70s that you possibly had. Brilliant. Oh, there was so much stuff in there. You know, it had the normal Evel Knievel, Simon, Hungry Hippos, etc., etc., Spirograph. But I love those because I like to reminisce, and I like to remember some of those toys when I was a younger lad and playing on them. So that scratched an itch this week. Then there was a person called oh god, I can't pronounce the name. Cara Compretto. That's right. Now this is a lady pianist who has a Twitch channel where you can tune in and you can, for money, listen to whatever she'll play. And she's one of those people that plays, and so plays by ear, and is a classical pianist, and she'll play things like the Mario 64 medley, Zelda, all of that sort of stuff. Seen it all before. But this was brilliant. So she did one that I haven't heard before. She did the music to F-Zero on the Super Nintendo on the piano. And she had the sheet music in front of her, and you could see how she was playing it. She was looking at the notes and just going like this and playing it. And then she changed the mood and went, oh, I could play this probably slightly faster. And then played it slightly faster. And she goes, oh, I wonder what it'd be like if it was slow. And then she started to play it slowly, and it turned into a sort of a jazz track. And I was going, wow, this is so good. And I basically got hooked on it because me having a natural bent towards keyboards and pianos and synthesizers, mesmerized at the intense on the face when you're doing something new and you've never heard it before, and you're playing it purely from sheet music, you know. So yeah, I can just imagine what that would be like for me. Bloody hell, I couldn't do it. And then there was a guy that came up called Zaid, and this is where I was talking a little bit earlier. He posed the question: the best new RTS games to play in 2024. And this is where my brain went into overload. I haven't played an RTS game in ages. And this guy was listing all the ones that are coming out in 2024, and some of them are out now. So he was talking about 9-bit armies and all sorts of stuff. But there was a couple of standout ones there. There was, I think, one called Tempest's Army. There was one called Outpost. Obviously, I'm looking forward to things like Homeworld 3. There was a number. And looking at how they looked brought back that Command and Conquer Generals vibe to me. There was one that looked just like, Steve will remember this, the 3D version of Battlezone that Atari brought out, which was a base building game on the moon that was an RTS and first person. There's a game called Outpost coming out. It looks just like it, only in 2024. And that got me interested. But the last time I played an RTS for any length of time was We Are Billions, which was a weird take on an RTS because it was more a tower defense with RTS elements. And so it's not really a true RTS game. So with Command and Conquer recently now coming out on Steam, where you can get them all for very cheap price, I thought to myself, I really don't want a remaster, and I really don't want to go back to my roots. I'm looking for that next game that would have been the follow-on to Supreme Commander, say, or Supreme Commander 2. And believe it or not, I was looking at this, and the guys that used to be on the Supreme Commander 2 development program for that game have written their own new game in the spirit of Supreme Commander. And I'm going, right, now's the time for me to jump on. I need to get that game. So watch Zaid and look at some of the YouTube videos where they're talking about RTS at the moment. Because I tell you what, if half of these games do come out, it's going to be a bumper year. I'm really looking forward to it. By the way, Age of Mythology, which is a game that I played back in the day, is not getting a remaster. It's a reimagined. They've written it from the ground up, a continuation. The downside of it is, or a plus, depending on how you look at it, they've written it from the ground up, but the engine remains the same. So from that point of view, you are writing a new game, but you're making it look like it did. That could be a good thing or a bad thing. But Age of Mythology was one that I did buy back in the day, and I liked it. So that's great. And then an old name that I haven't spoke to in ages or seen around for a while, 8-Bit Rach. 8-Bit Rach. Miss her to death because she used to be my Amstrad CPC itch. So where I could easily go to any channel and see Commodore 64 and Spectrum and stuff, there weren't that many that did Amstrad, and she did Stairway to Hell for the Amstrad CPC, and it was great to see her back. And that was an interesting game. Never heard of it, so it was great. So we now move on to the movie stuff, and I have watched a lot more this week. So I did go back to my old friend Rock God 2004, and he did a base cover of Hallowed Be Thy Name by Iron Maiden. What he did was amazing, right? In a sound studio where he was recording with his band, he got his bass out and got the sound check done. They played the whole track to Hallowed Be Thy Name, but turned it down and then bumped his bass up. So the microphone that was being used would pick up his bass more prominent, and he played it, and my God, it was like note for note, brilliant. I'm not the biggest Iron Maiden fan. I'm starting to get a bigger appreciation of Iron Maiden, but even I could tell somebody that could play that with their eyes closed, and Nige or Rock God 2004 could do that in his sleep. And I want to see more of that. That was brilliant. I get a greater appreciation as well of bass, because it was the bass line that he was playing. So it's brilliant. Do watch his channel, by the way. He's doing some cracking stuff at the moment of his own. He's finally getting to the end of his band films. Section 3, I think, is what he's in the middle of at the moment. He's just finished Section 2, started Section 3. And of course, all of the films that he watches, he basically gives a shout out and an opinion on it. Plus, he does all the chats. He's on the chat circuit, talking about any question you want to throw at him. So there you are, totally open person, brilliant. Then we move to one of the most high production value channels I've ever come across in my life, and one with one of the greatest film collections, and one that I'm so dead jealous of, and that's Keith of Euphoria Pictures. He's from Ireland. I know him. I speak to him on occasion. Haven't spoken to him for a while. And I helped him get a particular film that he was dead upset about not getting. It was going to ruin his collection because he'd have got 2 of the 3 films, and I was glad to help. No problem whatsoever. I'll do it again in a heartbeat for him. That sort of person. So he did a couple of videos this week that were great. First of all, he had a terrible week. Last week his Blu-ray player broke. He had to go out and buy another one. And then what I didn't know was later on in that week his TV packed up, and it's still in warranty. So he tells this story about how he got his new television, because he had a turn of fortune, is the best way to talk about it, where you don't complain and through your back teeth and start shouting and ranting at the person at the other end, you know, to say how shit their products are and all of that sort of stuff. He stated his case. A guy came along from the company, looked at the telly, wrote a report, went away. 3 days later, he's got a top-of-the-range telly without any arguments. And they said, so sorry this happened to you. Would you like our flagship telly for nothing? Oh, my God, yeah. If something like that would happen to me, well, to be quite honest, I'd probably have a heart attack and fall on the floor with my health as it is. For him, couldn't happen to a nicer guy. I'm sure the guy must have come in and saw his films on his shelves and went, whoa, this guy needs an upgrade. They'd come into my room and go, what a shithole. They'd probably downgrade me. But that was a brilliant story, and I was so happy for him. And then he did an unboxing of a very expensive box set, believe it or not, of a film that's not wildly considered to be great, which was Super Mario Brothers from the 80s with Bob Hoskin. And this box set's really expensive, but the stuff that you get with it, if I could have afforded it, I would. But it was in that £150, £160 category, where I am not that level with my film collection for me to get that type. The most expensive that I'll go to at the moment is like 130 quid, and then it'll have to have more than one film in it. You know what I mean? There'd have to be 6 versions of the film, or it would have to be 6 independently different films, like my Columbia Pictures ones that I've been showing. I just don't have that money to keep up. I can't keep up. There's comics that I'm into, vinyl I'm into, CDs I'm into, games I'm into. I haven't got the money. But fair play to the guy, Keith. He had the money, went out and bought it, and you can see the love on his face on it. He gave a totally in-depth, took the whole thing out of the box, showed every single part of it, and then talked about the picture quality, what he liked about the film, etc., etc. You can't ask for anything more, is what I'm trying to say. Then we move to my friend Andy, Forgotten World of Pictures. He showed off his entire 4K collection, whether it be steelbooks, slipcase versions, special collector's editions, whatever. I think there was just shy over 300. 1 hour, 55 minutes of pure love is probably what I want to say, because every single one of them, obviously, you could see in his face, meant something to him when he bought it. And it's nice to know there are people out there a bit like me that haven't opened all of their stuff at the moment. They need to. I know I need to, just to make sure the disc is okay. But have bought them because they want to upgrade their DVD version. And so they've seen the film, they can talk about it and all that sort of stuff, but they haven't actually got around to watching their physical 4K version of it yet. And then they are finally getting around to it. So totally get that. Brilliant. A must watch this week is Andy. Then we get to Ian Hill, The Ramblings, and you know how I feel about Ian Hill, The Ramblings. My God, it's the most down-to-earth reviews of anything, whether it be vinyl, music, films, magazines, TV series, etc. So he did a review of the top 10 Tom Hanks films, SFX magazine, April 2024 review, 5 albums of 1975 and what he thought of them, Doctor Who season 15, unboxing, etc., etc. Go and watch. You don't even think about it. When you've lived here, leave a sub, go and watch that. Each week be mesmerised by tons of varied stuff. And then lastly, there is Sammy G, who's relatively new. already got more subscribers than me in less than a month. I'm not sore, honest. And he did his Blu-ray collection. He did part 10. Always interesting because I always like to see what people's collections are. I'm not the hugest of fans of people just presenting a box and going, there you are, I bought that, and there I bought that. As long as there's a history behind it, I'm interested. If there's no history, don't care. I must admit I'm guilty of showing stuff that I bought at the end of the week, but I do give a little bit of an insight, and then I'm going to do a capsule review of them all. So I know what I'm going to be doing in the future, you see, so I don't feel too bad. And that's the end of what I watched on YouTube, and we get to what your stuff on YouTube is. And that's my friends that are in Discord, or I've chatted with in with Mamemeister, etc., etc. So I'm just going to take a swig of a drink, because this is the last page, and then we just end with what I normally do at the end. So on YouTube this week, I watched Down the Rabbit Hole. Go figure. I always watch him. He's brilliant. Kevin is just fantastic. So he did my arcade game station playing Night Driver with a Mad Cat steering wheel. Does it work? For which you need to watch the video to work out if it did or not. I'm not going to give any spoilers. And then he did his first PS VR2 test run on an older game, which is No Man's Sky, in VR on his new VR headset. And he did a simile of what it looked like on the PS4 and what the PSVR headset 1 was like, and then he showed it what it was like with the PSVR 2 virtual reality headset, and it was night and day. Yeah, you can see. I'm still not upset that I haven't got a PSVR 2 headset, to be quite honest. It's one of those things where I don't know where Sony are looking for VR in the future. Also, he mentioned in another video, which I'm just about to mention, another caveat on why you might want to consider PSVR 2 as not going that route and going down the MetaQuest 3 route. And so his last video was, have you ever been sad to leave a console generation? ? And he did this because he's packing up his PS4 and his PSVR 1 to give to his sister, because he now has a PS5 with a PS5 VR 2 headset. But what he did say was he can't play some of the games he's bought on his PlayStation 5. They're not backwardly compatible. So things like Battle Squadron is not there. Some Assassin's Creeds, I think. Number of AAA titles just crossed off because they don't work in the new headset the way they've been coded. And that, I think, is a disservice. Like I say, MetaQuest 3 handles things a little bit differently to that. So I'm not going to go down a schoolboy war, but I'm glad that I went with my Quest 3, to be quite honest. We get to Robert's retro gaming, and as you know, gaming royalty with Robert. He is mostly Atari 8-bit. But what's he been up to this week? And here we go with his output, and it's huge. He did Minecraft in Exile, episodes 114 and 115. He did Atari 8-bit games called High Rise, Beamtron, Dark Abyss, Kung Fu Master, and Colossal Cave Adventure. Very, very varied in his choices. Absolutely brilliant. Gotta watch him. Not enough Atari love out there. Definitely choose him over anybody else for Atari stuff. And then we move to Seb's Place. And Seb's Place is relatively one of my newer friends who I've gotten to love. We have regular sort of like chats. I leave comments for him. He leaves comments for me. And basically, he did a video this week called Jet Set Willie Ages 40 this week, and I've never seen the attic bug. So you can imagine it was exactly like that on the tin. He showed off Jet Set Willy in 2024, and he showed you the bugs and what they did to affect the code and everything. Brilliant. Can't say fairer than that. Getting very close to the end now. We move to Ponder, Colin Jones. He did one video this week, which was Portman, an arcade game. It's part of the Mamemeister High School kerfuffle. Definitely worth watching. You will learn patterns by watching somebody, and then you can develop your own patterns to combat them. That's a strategy, and one that I totally get, and one that I would do if I possibly could. And then we've got Mamemeister, who did a Sunday live stream, Super Huey challenge, or Alien Syndrome 10 game mashup, and then he did his Friday waffle. So I started to slow down there. Then sorry, it's my eyes are going a bit screwy. But the Alien Syndrome is from Sega, and it's a game that I tried to get on with and not get on very far. And my friend Mamemeister got to the end of level 2, so well played for him, because I doubt if I'd have been able to have done that. And with that, that's the end. We now move on to what I've bought and trailers. So there's not an awful lot, to be quite honest, this week. Just want to point out something. So I'll move to the other camera. Woo! There we are, still here. Now, in Discord, they were talking about an old game called Top Trumps. Don't know if anybody remembers Top Trumps. But apparently the Computer Museum had brought out a set of Top Trumps based on computers. Home computers from the 80s in general, to be quite honest. And they were really cheap. Somebody bought a pack and then showed it off. And I said, do you know what? For that sort of money, I'd like those. So I bought it. It comes in a cassette, look. Yeah, look, it even comes in an audio cassette. The cards are all very nicely wrapped. See, it's all got this cellophane around it. And then you've got the computers themselves, and then you've got the game Top Trumps, which is explained on how to play Top Trumps. I'm just going to show you a couple of cards. So there's looking at Acorn A3000, and down the bottom there you've got all the figures that you play the game with. So that would be the CPU is an ARM2 running at 8 megahertz with that resolution and the year it came out. And you might be battling this particular console, so I'm just going to bring that up. Commodore 16. There you are, that's an 8-bit computer. It uses a MOS derivative of a 6502 chip, 8-bit, lower resolution, earlier year, etc., etc. And these are all a lovely lot. There's an Oric 1. Intertech Superbrain. Never heard of that one. Commodore VIC-20, one of my first proper keyboard home computers that I had. And it goes on and on and on. They all look the same like that. But Top Trumps, a game from my childhood. Here's a Top Trumps version that you can't get other than from the Computer Museum, which is where I looked. And it's under a tenner. And I thank the person that was in Discord for bringing it to my attention, because without seeing it, I probably wouldn't have known about it. So just trying to put this back on. Nearly there. Oh, I'll do it later on. Because then we've got the steelbook that I bought this week, which is Aquaman Into the Lost Kingdom from HMV. I don't think there are multiple steelbook variants in this particular one. It comes with one. There's the back of it. It's a DC Universe film. I'm not huge into the DC films, but I've heard the picture transfer on this one is not too bad. And you must have heard this all this week from all the other people, and some of them have done an unboxing as one of my friends. It's the Doctor Who season 15 box set, which they've all been talking about. It tells you all about it there. And a very expensive set, one that I'm glad to have to go along with all my others. And that's it. So we're going to be now moving to trailers. So I'll just quit now to media playback. There we go. Drop down my notes. And we're now at the point where we can play some trailers. So hope to see you on the other side. Please enjoy these trailers. Have a little think and see what you might want to say to me. That would be lovely if you could do that. That would be great. So I'm turning off the mic now and playing the movie.
Four years ago, I was basically unemployed. A wanderer with no home. But now, I'm a husband and a father. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't know how you did it, Pops. My job was a little less stressful than yours. Oh yeah, I finally got a job. I'm the king of Atlantis. 500 million people from every known species in the sea call this place home. But that doesn't mean they all like me. I'm gonna kill Aquaman and destroy everything he holds dear. I'm gonna murder his family and burn his kingdom to ash.
He must be stopped, for a global meltdown is imminent.
I think I know someone that might be able to help us. Ooh, you look rough. Good job, little brother. High five.
Do not call me brother. I cannot believe you let this happen.
Yeah, well, I hate this job.
True king builds bridges, right?
True king builds bridges.
We need to find Manta.
He's different now. He's stronger than before.
It's the Black Trident. During King Atlan's time, there were 7 kingdoms. And the Trident was a curse upon them all.
The Trident's dark magic is spreading.
He means to end the bloodline.
I don't know what lies ahead, but we can't leave our children in a world without hope.
You're not as bad at this as you think. If you lead, the 7 kingdoms will follow.
Ellen Carlson finally met the perfect man.
Marry me.
Are you serious?
Church, bridesmaids, the works.
He's everything a father could hope for.
I wouldn't want you to think I intend on spending the rest of my life doing what I'm doing now. Ultimately, my ambition lies elsewhere.
Everything she'd ever dreamed of.
We're young, we're rich, we love each other.
There's only one thing wrong.
Who is it?
Bellman.
Jay is different from anyone I've known. He's got this strength.
Hey, come on. You need some help there? What you got in there, dear body?
I'm investigating the disappearance of Patricia Farron. Your wife's name was in a diary.
What are you doing?
Watching you. You look so peaceful, I didn't want to take advantage of you.
Come on. Take advantage of me.
You're such a kind and loving and gentle boy.
ambitious. I'm determined. And I'm not afraid of hard work.
Matt Dillon.
Hi.
Sean Young.
God, you scared me.
A kiss. Before dying.
Hey! Anyone?
Hello. If anybody can hear my voice, I'm in an ambulance on a road, and there's nobody here. And I'm blind. I can't see. Help me. I'm not sick.
Stay right with me. Hand on my shoulder and don't talk.
Flu shot. Mutated. Thought we were ready for this.
We're not gonna make it. We have to fight.
I am here to claim my legal right. What? I claim the presidency of the Council of Time Lords.
Will I have complete power?
More power than anyone in the known universe.
Yes. The ceremony must take place at once.
Doctor, what's happened to you?
At once!
But I've made a terrible mistake.
Get out!
I thought I'd lock the enemy out.
Get out!
Instead, I've locked it in.
Get out!
With us.
Good morning, ladies. It's a beautiful day. The exercise will do us good. Who are you? I'm the doctor. What? With the best china, 4 cups laid out on a tray. Off you go. Oh, and some fruitcake. I love fruitcake.
Stop! My name is Leela.
I am a warrior of the Sever team. I can survive anywhere.
Escape from somewhere, aren't you?
That's funny, I've got a ringing in my head.
That's the alarm system. You both escaped from somewhere, haven't you?
Frequently.
How'd you get here?
We came in the TARDIS. Doctor, look! Where are we?
Pluto?
The 9th planet.
What's this? It's my second best friend, aren't you, K9?
I only hope he's TARDIS trained.
Would you like a jelly baby?
Yes. Would you like a jelly baby?
Yes, of course.
Would you care for a jelly baby? Try one. They're rather good.
Space traffic control. Where are we going, Doctor?
Into the land of dreams and fantasy, Leela.
The age of the virus has begun.
Mankind has been yours!
Time's running out.
The Doctor, he has betrayed us.
He has a plan. A plan? He always has a plan.
Run!
Come on, run! But you can't even take care of yourselves.
Try me.
Now that's the language I do understand.
Then we are agreed. We shall fight.
Remind them that they're human beings. And tell them that human beings always have to fight for their freedom, all right? You know what to do? Let's go. Where will he go now?
Somewhere else.
Leela, that's a beautiful notion.
And there we go with the old trailers. And I must admit, just going back to Doctor Who for a moment there, it's a beautiful looking set. It actually looks sort of like 3D with all those cogs. The artwork in these collection sets is just second to none. They really are nice. They're expensive, but you can see where the money has gone in them. And when it comes to a kiss before dying, I was looking at Fatal Attraction a couple of months back, and I thought there must be some other familiar films that I've forgotten about that were based around premise of Fatal Attraction. And I didn't realise that there was a film in the 90s that was done by the same producer, and actually was a film that was made in the 50s or 60s with Robert Wagner, who was from Heart to Heart. And basically it intrigued me, so I watched it and thought, wow, this isn't too bad at all. And then, you know how it is where you can't sleep, you're flipping through the channels to get you to sleep. That's where that zombie film came from. And that again intrigued me again, a premise. And that's sometimes all you need is a premise. If you were blind, how would you survive with zombies all around you? And you know, the answer is a difficult one, and I don't think he would have survived it if it weren't for the fact that there was a pregnant policewoman that was sort of like also in the vicinity while this zombie problem was going on in this village. So yeah, there was a number of things there. So Dead Sight actually ended up being entertaining. I wouldn't turn around and say, oh God, you got to go out and buy that. It was just one that I said, do you know what? You wouldn't be in the wrong place to watch it and give it a try. You know, it it scratches that itch, and I've said that a number of times, but if you're looking for something a little bit different, that you're going to give something a chance, you wouldn't come away going, what a bag of spanners shit that was. So with that, I'm just going to end this particular blog and say what another great blog I've had, and what a great time I've had again. I hope you've enjoyed it. I do obviously get a little bit tired towards the middle. I get blurry vision and so forth, but you've been sticking with me all the way through this, and I'm so looking forward to Tuesday and seeing my doctor. Maybe things will be on the upturn, and if they are, you're in the best place to find out what's going to happen next. So thank you very much for watching, subbing, liking, everything. So appreciated. You wouldn't know how appreciative I am of that. And with that, salute, and go watch some of these great friends of mine streams. They're all brilliant. Bye-bye.